Thank you very much indeed, Sven. It's very nice to be here. It's very nice to, I have to say, congratulations to Sven and the team for putting together today's event. I think it's been, so far, a great success, and I hope it will continue. Exchanges as platforms for public companies have been through a lot over the many years. From extremely humble beginnings down in the coffee shops in the City of London, really over time exchanges developed very often into pretty stuffy clubs for an exclusive group of participants. And the exchanges were there to serve the interests of those clientele. But in my lifetime, and certainly in my career, exchanges have moved up a gear, I suppose, in terms of they now operate in a huge range of products. They are often mind-numbingly focused on speed. And I have to say, when speed of trading is the most important thing in a market, I really question what the purpose of that market is. When you're talking not only in seconds, but milliseconds, microseconds, and nanoseconds, it doesn't feel to me like that's what markets were set up to do. Speed is king, not investment, which is somewhat unusual. Very often, exchanges now are absolutely focused on returns for their shareholders, not necessarily for serving the community. Yet we often think of these exchanges as national treasures, and we feel rather patriotic about them. In the UK, there are only 8 fully regulated, recognized investment exchanges, regulated by the FCA in Canary Wharf. The vast majorities of these entities are internationally owned, and most of them focus their attention on high-speed trading and/or derivatives. And in fact, that picture there, I think there will be consolidation because two of the exchanges are owned by the same entity, being ICE in Atlanta. We have the CME Group from Chicago. We have BATS, which is a US-owned entity, Euronext in Paris, and the LME, which is owned by the Hong Kong Mercantile Exchange. There are only 2 of those exchanges that focus on primary market listings for UK and international companies. One of those 2 exchanges is currently involved in a merger of equals, as I understand, and I run the other one. We are a small cap focused, fully regulated, and well-financed entity who strive to offer a simple and straightforward facility to match investors with issuers, hopefully leaving a bit more money on the table for those issuers and investors in terms of the way that they operate and grow their companies. ISDX was formed, or came into existence when ICAP bought the old Plus markets in 2012. Plus itself had taken over from OFX, and I'm delighted to say that we still retain some of the great companies that joined us back in the days of OFX. Arsenal Football Club, Shepherd Neame, Adnams, amongst others. So some pretty household names amongst our companies. Whilst I might not like to, or particularly want to, dwell on the history of OFX and Plus markets, I should also say that I come from a family who are all archaeologists, so I can't avoid history altogether. And in our previous iterations, we certainly made some pretty bad mistakes as we developed the market. We spent a great deal of investors' money without a huge result. We've promised many things and probably failed to deliver quite a few of them. And I think that we've also historically spent way too much time criticizing the alternatives rather than necessarily building something for ourselves. I joined ISDX in 2014, and we are now on a slightly different mission and trying to do things a little bit differently. But it takes time. We're only at foundation stage. And I should say, firstly, we are owned. The thing that gives me the time to build something which I hope is sustainable and I hope is really valuable is that we are backed 100% by ICAP and have the personal support of Michael Spencer in terms of the way that we operate. So we have the financial muscle to take time, be patient, and hopefully build foundations that are solid and worthwhile and will allow us to build a sustainable business. We've spent the last couple of years building a new team, developing a strategy that focuses on providing this sensible, straightforward, and easy business in a regulated environment that gives a reasonable level of security in terms of the shares that we offer. We've been rebuilding our relationships with the market participants, and we are slowly starting to get some traction. It is slow and steady work. There is going to be no overnight changes in the way that we operate. Part of what we've also been doing over the last couple of years is working with partners and developing partnerships, developing friendships, developing people that we operate with. And we see that as being, again, an exchange as a community that operates to try and work with others. I should probably particularly like to highlight our relationship with the Social Stock Exchange. The Social Stock Exchange, who are an interesting organization, really not only focused on offering public market facilities, but also entirely focused on companies that are not only trying to make a return for shareholders, but are also trying to make a positive social and/or environmental impact on the world. I think this third dimension to companies is something that's really worthwhile, really interesting, and I would encourage you to go and visit Thomas Carruthers and his team at their stand and to listen to their talks later on during the day. But we've built a number of these relationships, and we will continue to partner with people as we move the market forward. So some very modest figures in terms of the way that we are operating at the moment. We had only 2 new companies join our market in 2014. We had 21 new companies join the market last year, of which 18 were in the second half of it. We're targeting well in excess of 50 this year. And we have the capacity to do a lot more. And we feel that when we get the messaging right and when we get the offering right, we will be a really serious offering that the market will start to take more seriously. I just wanted to give a couple of examples of companies that are on our market that I think it's always worth trying to emphasize. Chapel Down, the wine company, have been with us for several years, and they are a real English success story. I think they are a fascinating company. They've got growing revenue. They had their annual report come out, or their annual results yesterday, revenue up, I think, 24 or 25% again. Fabulous branding, a really good, interesting product, a strong management team with a great vision. I'd also like to particularly pick out Lenegas Cuba, and I know that David Lenegas is talking later on today. David's a fascinating entrepreneur. He has made a real commitment to ISDX, and he's brought a number of companies to us. And I think that this company, Lenegas Cuba, which is focused on investing in the newly opened up Cuba, is a really, really interesting animal. Particularly, I should just say again about David. I mean, David has made a commitment to us. He has bought a number of companies. He's slightly frustrated, or probably very frustrated, that our development hasn't been a bit quicker. But if you look at that, his company, Lenegas Cuba, the blue line at the bottom is showing that volumes in his stock are starting to pick up, and we are introducing things that we hope will further enhance that liquidity, and we hope to make David a happier man over time. Lastly, in terms of the companies that I thought I should point out, is one that's not doing a huge amount of business, but joined our market just in December last year. Coincilium, the first public market company in the world that focuses on blockchain. Blockchain is an area which I think is misunderstood and not fully understood by a large number of people. But Coincilium are really interestingly placed. I think it's an interesting story, and certainly one to look at for the future. Our most recent company that joined, and I haven't got a graph for this one, joined on, I think, Friday last week or the week before, Dagang Halal, a wonderful Malaysian company based in Malaysia but with a global footprint, who are involved in and leading the registration of halal-based products around the world and the verification of their authenticity. So we're getting some interesting companies from different sectors joining us, and we hope that that will encourage you to have a look at ISDX companies as you develop your portfolios over time. Going back to, or just briefly talking about David Lenegas's frustration with us, one of the things that we've been trying to achieve and to make sure is that that investors can access our companies directly and through reasonable technology. The way that our market operates at the moment is that whilst you might be able to send orders to your broker via your phones or via computers or via the telephone, at the moment, as a market maker-driven market, your broker then has to phone a market maker in order to execute a trade. So it's very old school, very traditional, very slow. I have to say sometimes telephones are useful because it does mean you can negotiate a slightly better price, but it's not ideal, and we need to move on, and we are. And I had hoped that today we would be in a position where your brokers were able to execute their orders with the market makers automatically, but it will be within a couple of weeks, I promise, and we are moving forward. So those trading facilities, your broker, and I should say again, the broker community, virtually every broker in the country can deal ISDX stocks. They may be sometimes a little bit reticent because they might not know that, so you might have to push a bit harder with your brokers initially, but slowly over time, those facilities are improving. I should just as an aside say that yes, telephones are playing a less and less important role in trading, but one of the delights of working for ICAP as a group, and ICAP as a group is a market that concentrates on telephone trading or voice broking. And once a year, we have a fantastic annual charity day, which over the last 15 years has raised, I think, something like £120 million for good causes, where 100% of our revenue goes to good causes. And we always get some fantastic personalities coming along to the ICAP Charity Day, and they are attracted by the telephones. So telephones are not dead, but we would like there to be an alternative in the ISDX space. In terms of the future, one of the things that I've been very determined to do is to not talk too much about what we're going to do, because we have a history of over-talking about what we're going to do and then not delivering it. But our initial aim was to get complete equivalence with the alternative market, with AIM, in terms of the way that people operate and the way that they are able to trade. Once we've achieved that goal, we will then start to experiment. As an organization, we are risk takers. We want to see things, we want to try things, we want to innovate and to show how things can develop and improve. We're going to look at trading mechanics, and in addition to the market maker system, we hope to launch auctions, occasional auctions for stocks in order to concentrate liquidity and give a real sort of boost to trading activity. We're looking at things in the private market space, but we're also very much engaged with the community. Our whole hope is that we will get from you, as people investing in companies, we will get input and ideas on how things can be improved and how they can be developed moving forward. Again, so we will experiment with things, we will do our best to ensure that the market evolves pretty quickly in terms of the way that we operate moving forward. So there is one exchange in the UK, in this equity market space, that does 99.9% of the business, and I run the other one. It is an interesting challenge that we have. The way that we think that we can offer something really differentiated is through having a clear set of rules, by significantly reducing the cost of the way that people come to public markets, so leaving more on the table. And I just want to emphasize one last, from an ISDX point of view, we are exactly, from a legal and regulatory structure, the same as the other exchange that I won't mention. But particularly in our growth market sector, it's really important to emphasize the growth market, the tax benefits that growth markets are offered directly by the government are incredibly important, and we need to really emphasize that point. Any company on ISDX, they are eligible to go into your SIP, they are eligible for ISAs. But the bigger tax benefits that have to be really seriously looked at for growth market companies is there is no CGT, no capital gains tax if you hold the stock for more than 3 years. That is a gift that we are given by the government. There is no inheritance tax on stocks that have been held for more than 2 years. So if you're building a portfolio to pass it on to the next generation, if you're building it in growth stocks, there is no inheritance tax on growth stocks. This is not a tax dodge. This is a direct offering from the government, and something that is really worth taking notice of. There's no stamp duty on trades in our market. That's a real positive as well. We're going to experiment with some changes. We want to engage with the community. We want to engage with people. We want to hear from investors what we're doing right, but more importantly, what we're doing wrong, so that we can improve things over time. Lastly, please have an opportunity. Come and meet my team down at our stands downstairs. We have some pretty interesting companies on our market. We're going to be getting a lot more interesting companies on our market. We're very, very keen. We don't think we've got all the answers. We think that we are trying to do something that's worthwhile. We hope it will benefit the market more broadly, and we look forward to engaging with people directly. We're a small organization. We answer our own phones, and we're keen to hear other people's views on how we can make the market better. Thank you for your attention. I know that we're all really only here to listen to Jim Mellon in half an hour's time, but I appreciate you listening to me for a while. Thank you for your time.